right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I am at the 7th edition of PALANTIR'S AIPCon, and I'm here with a very special guest, Ankit Shankar. Ankit, how are you doing?
Doing great. Doing great. Happy to be here.
You are a forward-deployed engineer at Palantir, and today we're going to talk a lot about the fundamental paradigmatic changes that the FDE concept is going through. And so we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about kind of your role at Palantir.
Yeah.
But I'm super excited you took the time to sit down. So to get everyone a little bit of an intro, a lot of people know what a forward-deployed engineer is, but what exactly is a FDE?
Good question. So I think the FDE role is an interesting one because it basically is the role that signs up to go and win at a customer. And that means what we care about is not the specifics of where our technology is today or the specifics of the exact shape of how you want us to engage. What we want is, what is the ambitious thing that you want to go and do that maybe you're not sure exactly how to get there.
Right.
Maybe you're not even sure about that first couple steps. And we can go jump in, partner with you, and figure out how to go and solve that. And so that means sometimes going in and working through some of the political challenges at a customer. Sometimes it's digging through some of their most arcane systems to figure out how to actually plug it in and combine them together and make them work. And sometimes it's spending time desk side with the users that care about the problem most, but aren't really that familiar with the technology aspect of it. And taking all of those things and figuring out, one, how can we deploy our products best to go and support this? Two, where do our products fall short and how do we change our products to go in and support that?
Now, Palantir is really unique with this forward deployed model. I mean, some other software companies have people that can actually go to the customer and help them, but you guys take it to a next level. Dr. Karp said in his keynote today that you take on the burden of value creation, that you don't want to get paid until you actually prove results. Can you speak to why the FDE concept is so synonymous and really symbiotic with the idea of value creation?
Yeah, I think part of it is because it is a strange approach in terms of even just pricing for our customers. A lot of how they think about that and talk about that is like, hey, what's your menu of options? What are the different services I can pay for? What are the different products I can pay for? And for us, that's a much less interesting question than what do you want to do,
right? And
how can we help you actually achieve that outcome? Because the real answer might be, actually, we don't have exactly the right shape of product for you, but we're confident that in 3 days or 3 weeks or maybe 3 months, usually closer to the first than the last, that we can help either extend our platform or show you how to build on top of our platform to go and get there. And so by signing up for the outcome, we are committed to saying, actually, it doesn't really even matter where our products are today. And that's actually where the best products come from. Basically every part of the platform that exists today started with partnering with the customer to do something that the platform couldn't do when we signed up for it. And it's important enough that they're like, yeah, we'll go on this journey with you.
Right.
And so that's why for all of our customers, we really just do describe it as a partnership where it's, hey, do you want to sign up for going and doing the ambitious thing? It won't always be easy or a smooth path, but we're ready to say, yeah, we will go and get to that end goal together.
Right. And I think that's why Dr. Karp also stressed that he doesn't really think of customers as customers. He thinks of them as actual partners that have ambitions and want to have a long partnership together.
Yeah.
Okay, AIP changed everything for Palantir, changed the trajectory of the company. Obviously, we're seeing AI have a massive role in society right now. The forward deployed engineer model is so interesting because you guys actually work with customers to get outcomes and solutions. Mm-hmm. But over the past couple months, you and our good friend of the channel, Chad, have been teasing this idea that what if AI could automate the FDE role? So what is that at a high level, and how do you think that would change Palantir if artificial intelligence became the FDE?
Yeah. That's a good question, and you didn't think we were going to get away from this disruption ourselves, right?
No.
Like, obviously, we have to figure out, how does AI change the roles that we have, and what should the roles look like in a world with AI? And I think it's now becoming increasingly obvious to everyone, especially our customers who are seeing this kind of transformation, that it will introduce some amount of changes. And so for us, we were looking at the FDE role and saying, what does it look like to build the AI FDE? And so a lot of that is taking the work that FDEs do and some of those skills and being able to have the system do that for you.
Right.
And so this is a huge unlock, and we're already seeing some early wins from this. So things like understanding those complicated different data systems and landscapes for when you go into a new customer, or building out new workflows, or creating your ontology for you,
Right.
or building applications on top of your ontology using either some of our no-code tools like Workshop, or using the ontology SDK to build it in custom code. All of these things are things that AIFD can do. And so it's been cool to see this bridge between the vibe coding tweets that you see on X, where you see, oh yeah, people are able to slap together prototypes on the weekend, but often they don't go anywhere. I think Andre Carpathy had a pretty interesting tweet about this, where the 90% of the work is actually going from, all right, I've kind of put together something that's a cool demo, to turning into something that I can actually ship somewhere.
Making it operational.
Exactly. And so one of the things with AIFD is we wanted to make it so that you can take advantage of these new AI capabilities, but also still have all of the same security constraints that that our customers have, and be able to handle that intentionally. Two, actually deploy it into real production workflow. So if you can slap together something quickly, but it's just a demo or just a toy, then it's not that interesting. So how can we get it to something that is actually useful in the day-to-day? So what we're seeing is, because of the primitives in the platform, things like branching, so being able to do this kind of changes and experimentation in a sandbox that doesn't affect your production workflows,
Right.
and then reviewing that and merging it in only when you're confident that it works the way that you expect. That was a really painful thing to build, and it's enormously complex. But now that we have it, it's something that lets us apply AI to these kinds of workflows very easily. So we can have AIFD go and say, hey, I'm going to create a new version of this application that adds the feature that you asked. Or I'm going to create a totally new application, but it's not going to break your existing workflows because it's doing this on a branch. You can go review it. You can go and verify that it makes sense, and then merge it in. You can branch not only the code like you can in Git or something like that. You can also go branch your data. You can branch your data model. You can branch your ontology. You can branch all of these things to go and be able to do that work. And so that, to me, is really really exciting, because once we have those building blocks, it means that you can start saying, all right, what else can AI do for us in this sort of AIFT world? So, well, could we make it so that applications are almost showing up on demand, where it's, hey, I think of a workflow that I want to do, or something where I have an idea of just a modification of something where this would make my life easier. I'm doing this problem that I've run into in my job today. Can I get it to come up with a mini application to solve that problem for me? And the answer is yes.
It unlocks a lot of creativity.
Exactly. And this is both for technical and non-technical users, because one of the things that can be a bottleneck is, well, I want to do this thing, but the only way to get this data is through some API, or I have to go and do the data transformation to figure this out, or I want to go and build this application UI, but it would be building a custom app, and I don't really know how to do that, so I don't want to get into it. Now, you can get to the point where actually you can sort of experiment, prototype, and get those, even if you're non-technical. And then when you bring it to a technical teammate or something like that, they're reviewing something that is already created for you, and you can kind of see the value very, very quickly. And then you can go from that initial prototype into something that you can really use pretty quickly.
Which is really interesting, because the AIFDE, if you have an idea to build an application and AIFDE does it for you, then when you actually need a forward deployed engineer to really implement and go more operational, they have something to work with. They're not starting from day one, which would take them maybe a week. Now they can do it in a couple of days, or maybe even a couple of hours.
Totally. And it's one of those things where putting out, getting the right answer, the fastest way to do that is to put out the wrong answer.
Right.
And so being able to say, well, it's something that maybe it's not exactly this, but it rhymes with this, or it's not exactly this, but I want to make if you could, turn this into something a bit more polished, that will get me there. That is already enormously useful. But what we're seeing is actually, for some of these workflows, it does either as good of a job as a human FD, or sometimes even better. So I'll give you an example for something that really happened in the last couple weeks, where I was in a meeting and I got the Slack message of, hey, I have build is broken. They changed how the upstream system works, and this ontology object is broken, and we need it later today. Can you just take a look?
Right.
I was in a meeting, didn't have time to look at it, and so I just dragged and dropped that into AIFD and said, "Hey, go take a pass at fixing this." And what I got at the other end was an actual 100% fix. In fact, I got the Slack message of, is this branch you? that looks fixed before I could even go and look at it. And so that kind of thing is really exciting to me because we can start flipping this to saying, hey, instead of an FDE having to even orchestrate these, can it be baked in across our platform? And so it's when you see a build that's broken, can we have a auto-suggested fix? When you go in and are working on a application, can you have suggested alternative designs? When you're working on creating a new function or source of logic in your ontology, can we automatically suggest other versions of it, or automatically suggest models that you might want to train, things like that? We can just have this be this constant generative source of ideas and pathways through the platform automatically created for you, which is wild.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty wild to say the least of that happening. Do you think this is emblematic of what Karp and Sham have said, which is AI needs to go beyond chat?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is like even since GPT-4 in March of 2023, which is really the first model that we saw was like, oh, this is solving real problems.
Yeah,
really what triggered the deep investment into AIP is that, okay, the models are at the level where they're actually useful for our customers.
Right.
Even then, it was useful to go in and ask it to go generate little snippets of code or do things where it's in that kind of chat paradigm of, hey, just do this thing for me. Whereas now we're moving to a world where it's a model plus a collection of tools to go in and perform some task that you care about.
Right.
And so that more agent-centric view is a much higher ceiling on the kinds of tasks that it can do. So it's not, hey, just give me this code. It's, hey, generate the code for this, which means go generate the code, but then also check if it works.
Yeah.
And then also go and if it doesn't work, fix it. And if once you fix it, maybe add a couple tests around it. And then once you put some tests around it, go back and update the objects that are related to that. Go through that whole loop and then come to me with an answer.
Right.
So a much higher ceiling. And that's only where we're at today with the versions of one AIFDE that we've built so far. We're shipping new versions every day, so a lot of movement there. But also where the models are. As models improve, AIFD will also get more and more capable. And so these building blocks will only become more and more powerful, and the kinds of tasks that you can ask for AIFD will only go up.
And I imagine you think as an FDE that this is only going to hypercharge your work, not necessarily replace your job.
Yeah. It's the bottleneck is really like the number of hours I have in the day.
Yeah.
And so what I'm finding is actually while we're talking through this right now, I have a session running on my laptop to go through and refine some of the stuff for the demo later today.
Wow.
And so as the number of hours are the bottleneck, that is I'm getting this parallelization of I can have it executing tasks that I want, and I can come back and just review, oh, that's actually not quite what I meant, or oh, okay, this is great, now I can keep going. And so the kinds of work that FDEs do, I think is very parallelizable because you can always come up with 3 or 4 more ideas of how you can do something more ambitious with your customer.
Right.
So you're sitting on, I don't know, a healthcare use case where you're like, well, we're doing this one thing, but maybe there's 3 other ways I can decide for like risk conditions I should be looking for in this workflow. Or if you're looking at like flight routing at an airline, you're thinking it's like, well, we're currently doing the easiest version of this, but maybe I could try training a model to do the classification here instead. And like, do I have time to go and train that model right now? It's like, maybe not. But what if I let AIFT go and cook on that for a bit, and then I check in 2 hours and see what does it look like?
Right.
And can it generate a report for me also? And there's the primitives to do that in the platform. It's like, these are all the things that the tools we have for model building, the tools that we have for generating reports, the tools that we have for analyzing data sets, tools that we have for building applications. All of those are available to AIFD as well. So the same tools we use. Sometimes you'll get okay results or maybe not great results, but even those are useful in validating, oh, maybe this is harder than I thought it would be, or taking that V0 stab at it. A pattern that I find I'm doing a lot is just, hey, I'll try it, and then about 30% of the time, I go, this is great, it's good, merge it, let's keep going. About 30% of the time, it's like, this is not quite right, but I can re-steer this to be right.
Yeah.
And 30% of the time, it's like, I'm actually going to throw this away, but now I can approach it in a totally different way. And I didn't have to hit this dead end myself.
Yes.
I had AIFT hit the dead end for me and then let me go and explore the right path later.
And I think I truly think that's a game changer because the FDEs, as we can tell, are incredibly valuable to Palantir. They're valuable to the customers. If you have more of your time back in the day to be creative and to actually come up with solutions, I would imagine the customers would appreciate that, and AI can do a lot of the grunt work. Ankit, thank you for taking the time. Last question for you. What's the coolest thing about working at Palantir?
The coolest thing about working at Palantir is, I think, always going to be the people. I think being surrounded by people that are infinitely surprising, thoughtful, smart, and will also be there with you at 1 a.m. when you're like, I am going to get this done. And someone's like, hey, can I help? That is always good.
It's a unique culture, the fact that people want to stay up late at night. Like that doesn't happen at every company.
Yeah, it's definitely easier to convince people to stay up late than it is to wake up early, but it's probably the engineering culture at heart. So great.
I love it. Ankit, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm here at the 7th edition of Palantir's AIPCon with the CEO and founder of Bolt, Ryan Breslow. Ryan, thanks for being here.
It's great to be here.
So you guys just announced the partnership today with Palantir. I've actually known about your company for the better part of 4 years now. I've been covering Palantir for 4 or 5 years, so it's really cool to see the partnership happen today. For a little bit of background for people that don't know what Bolt is, what do you guys do and why partner with Palantir?
We have always been a pioneer around checkout. We pioneered the embedded one-click checkout. That's not another button, but embedded in your checkout form. We pioneered Checkout OS, which is an independent checkout platform, a fully managed checkout. And so we've always been on the bleeding edge. And today we're taking that one step further with Checkout 2.0. This is the first smart checkout, dynamic checkout that analyzes customers, their archetypes, and displays the best checkout experience for them.
So when it comes to checkout, e-commerce, I mean, it's a massive industry. Amazon, Shopify, we've seen how big these companies have become. You guys, the way I understand it, are kind of the connective tissue behind someone being on an e-commerce website saying, hey, I want to buy this, and being able to have that seamless checkout experience without going through like the 50 different steps you have to go through just to order a product.
Yeah, we talk a lot about the NASCAR effect of checkout, which is you've got all these logos cluttered through your checkout experience. It's disorienting, it's confusing, it's high friction, and the data shows it. Right. 70% of shoppers are falling off at checkout, which is the final step. 70%. It's a $2 trillion problem in the U.S., tens of trillions of dollars globally. It's one of the biggest problems facing the internet, and no one has used AI or data to make a smart checkout.
Right. Okay, so that, speaking of AI and data, brings up Palantir. What is the crux of the partnership, and why do you guys think it further differentiates you from the PayPals of the world, for example?
Well, I've always wanted to partner with Palantir. When I was at school at Stanford, very close by Palantir's offices, a lot of my smartest computer science peers were going to work for Palantir or intern at Palantir. So I've known about it since the early days. Actually, my talk earlier today was in the same room that I used to grab lunch with my friends at Palantir. So it was really a full circle moment for me. And they have the smartest people in the room. And with us, working hand in hand with our tech teams and our engineering teams, we think we can make 1 + 1 = 3, not just go 2 times faster, but 3, 4, 5 times faster. They have brought unbelievable effort, intensity, and speed to this Checkout 2.0 project.
In terms of Palantir's Foundry software, their ontology, is there something unique about incorporating that ontology or that data aggregation into Bolt that makes the Checkout 2.0 that much easier?
Absolutely. It is extremely sophisticated. It makes getting all of our disparate data into one place so much easier, making sense of the data, analyzing the data, forming real actionable recommendations. Bolt has built all of this highly sophisticated infrastructure around the checkout pipeline and the order pipeline and all of the various integrations, bells and whistles. So it really helps us bring all of this together, make sense of it, create actionable insights, and one-click deployment into our checkout model and real-time updates to our customers' checkouts.
Right. In terms of the growing AI space, I kind of want to get your thoughts at a more high level of financial technologies and AI. Where do you see kind of philosophically the role of AI being to hyper accelerate the growth? Because we hear about it with large language models, we hear about it with NVIDIA's chips and GPUs, we see all that type of growth. But in fintech, where do you think AI has a role?
It has a huge role. I think the U.S. was very sophisticated with fintech 1.0, and in many ways, the rest of the world has leapfrogged us.
Yeah.
They weren't as sophisticated, so you see even easier to use, more sophisticated consumer fintech tools in Africa and China and Europe and many other nations. And so we actually have a lot of great infrastructure, but haven't created those ultra compelling end user experiences. And that's what we're really doing at Bolt with our embedded one-click checkout, which is the easiest checkout on the internet, highest converting, lowest cost for merchants. But we're also launching the Bolt Finance and Crypto Super App. So to all of our 80 million wallets, we're giving them an app. That app, you have one click. You can turn on a bank account, credit cards, debit cards, crypto buy, sell, trade, a host, dozens of other financial services, track all of your orders from all of your shopping, all in one app. And we're layering on more and more. It's in private beta now. There's a wait list if you search Bolt Pay in the App Store. And it will go out to a general audience fairly soon.
So let's talk more about that, because fintech is getting very competitive to me. You got Robinhood that's getting into banking. You've obviously got SoFi. You've got Affirm, PayPal. The idea of having one integrated ecosystem is, I think, what a lot of the fintechs are going for. You guys have checkout. Do you think the checkout and the customer data you have on what people are buying makes it easier to figure out, what they might sell or buy when it comes to crypto, or also what recommendations you could advertise to them to get even better deals?
Yeah, absolutely. Our goal at Bolt has always been to get the users.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've built an immense amount of checkout software. The checkout software is built for businesses. We have all of this amazing payments functionality. It's world-class. We just announced for the first time ever a few weeks ago, zero margin payment processing. So we make nothing on top of interchange. We give all of our software that companies are selling for 1% to 2% on top of your payment processing. We're giving it for free. We just announced Bolt Charge. We're announcing Bolt Payouts soon. So all the software we're giving for free. And why are we making no margin on this? We want everyone to use our software and join our network. When you join our network, we give you our users and you give us your users.
Right.
It's a handshake. So we've always been after the users because we knew we were going to launch this super app since the early days. It's been in all of our decks. We actually started building the super app 10 years ago, and we put it on pause until our network was big enough. And now with my return to the company, it's on fast track and it's all built and it's here.
What inspired you to come up with the idea for Bolt 10 years ago?
I originally in high school and early college was building e-commerce sites
Right.
for myself and customers, and I couldn't stand losing customers at the checkout. And so I went and pitched a lot of the PayPal mafia and a lot of these iconic payments legends who, I have a lot of respect for, but every single one told me that it was a terrible idea. So a lot of them said there's no need for something in between Stripe and PayPal.
Right.
Right. Both the companies are phenomenal. Nothing in the needed for in the middle of it. And my reaction was, well, I know as a customer I'd use this.
Yeah.
And I know many other customers and e-commerce businesses and founders who would use this. So I think Bezos has a great quote. It's, why would you worry about your competitors? They were never going to pay you anyway. I knew customers would adopt something like this, and I just got incredible resolve to go and build this.
Okay. I love it. Ryan, thank you for taking the time. Last question for you. What do you think is the future for Bolt with the Palantir partnership in particular?
Palantir allows us to land the biggest accounts. We've got companies doing billions of dollars a year on our platform already. We're looking to land those customers doing tens of billions a year, which we're in very late stage conversations with and going to launch some soon. So it just takes us to the next stratosphere of size, scale, credibility. Their AI and their foundry and ontology is world-class. It brings extra sophistication to an already sophisticated platform. So I couldn't be more excited about it. We have CEO level support. Alex Karp we just gave the keynote here. Alex Karp is coming to our conference, Thunder Road, to give a keynote there. So it's a very deep partnership. They can bring us into a lot of deals where they need payments and checkout. A lot of their customers, obviously, very large scale and have those needs. So This partnership is going to take Bolt to a whole new level.
I love it. There you go. Ryan Breslow. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks so much.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. We are here at Palantir's 7th AIPCon, and I'm honored to be here today with Joseph Bonanno, who's the head of data and analytics and innovation at Citigroup. Joseph, thanks for being here.
Happy to be here as well.
So I'm really excited to dive into this. Citigroup, obviously multinational, very big company. Before we get into it, what exactly do you do at Citibank? And then we'll get deeper, or Citigroup, and then we'll get deeper into the role of Palantir in this partnership.
So as part of the wealth division, I run all of our data analytics platforms, AI, cloud, you name it, soup to nuts. So effectively, how do we make people go faster?
Right. Okay, Palantir. You guys are a pretty big company. Palantir is becoming a pretty big company. Obviously, big companies, multinational corporations, they need to be ahead on their AI data strategy. What was the inclination to begin even the thinking of, hey, maybe we should work with Palantir?
To be honest with you, I was a bit reluctant. I had looked at Palantir in the years past and sort of as a black box. I even actually challenged the Palantir team when they first presented to us. I was like, oh, machine learning, anomaly detection, I get it, but that's not my problem.
Right.
And to be honest with you, they were super, not arrogant, but direct in saying like, look, we can do things that you're not aware of. And oh, by the way, like you have a problem with your reference data and we can synchronize it all almost like instantly.
Huh.
And we're going to tell you things that you probably don't want to hear. Like meaning your zigzag processes, we're going to tell you straight lines. And if we're not the right people to work with, then maybe you need to find another partner. That sort of made me interested because I'm equally as arrogant and cocky.
Yeah.
So I said, game on, let's go and prove it to me.
You know, this is really interesting. Dr. Karp talks about this a lot, this idea that they take on the burden of value creation. And I, you know, just as someone who's, you know, an entrepreneur myself, building my own business, the idea that you shouldn't get paid until someone proves to you, or until you prove to them that you're worth your money, I think is very interesting. So that forward deployed engineer model, when they came up to you guys and they said, hey, we're going to prove something that you guys don't really believe in. When you accepted that challenge, what were some of those initial use cases that got you to think, okay, maybe there's something deeper here that we need to explore?
Yeah. So it starts with our client DNA and the data of our clients. Again, we're sort of going after a different market than maybe your traditional wealth manager. And a lot of the big players, you know, maybe US based or wherever, they have pretty organized data around your DNA.
Right.
We just happen to have like world's change makers. So families that live in different jurisdictions, kids going to college here and there, investments all over the world. And the data, just because of Citi in its past, hadn't really brought everything together. So what I mean by that is your information might be sitting in 55 different systems and it's not being kept together other than manual intervention. So your first name, your last name, your birthday, your sort of risk tolerance, investment objectives, whether you use our mobile app and all these things was super fragmented. And in order to kind of bring that together, we didn't have like the single client master, if you will. But at the same time, if you made the simple act of changing your address, and whether you did it through like an online channel or you communicated to your financial advisor, some human actually had to log into system by system by system by system. And let alone people might be on vacation, you might fat finger something, et cetera, et cetera. So the first use case was, how do we build what we call a federated client master?
Right.
And then literally synchronize it across our landscape globally. That was like the first one. The other few are, if you think about wealth management in general, it's all about like, you know, advice and trying to give people planning, you know, around their wealth and their goals and life objectives. But obviously, you know, when you trade or you invest, you're in securities or bonds and all fun stuff. So if you think about the same fragmentation existed for our securities. So Apple in one business might be labeled as an equity, another might be a common stock, another might be a listed stock. And by the way, when a new security comes in the market, somebody had to manually maintain all these things to keep all the taxonomies in sync. And then let alone you add to that like real-time prices, corporate actions. Those are things like stock splits, dividends, you name it.
Right.
They were all built like point-based solutions, you know, from different sources. And Palantir is like, no, you can set it up in our ontology and Foundry as a center sort of hub and spoke model. But effectively, we're going to connect all your systems so that you change it once in the center or you change it in a spoke. And by the way, it's going to synchronize everything. We were like, oh, that's pretty cool. And that's when we said, like, prove it. They were like, oh, yeah, but we're going to take it a step further. I go, okay, let's see. They go, well, when you change an address, what do the people do? And they actually sat with our like ops and service teams. And they said, oh, well, you have to go validate that this is a legal address,
Right.
which means I have to send an event or stream something to another third party to validate that it's legal. Oh, you have a KYC checker internally, so you need to send a message to the KYC system. Oh, guess what? Because it's, in this state, we might have to pop up a DocuSign. Oh, guess what? Because they submitted their passport, we need to scan and read the passport and lift the information. So think of all these steps that could be happening simultaneously. They were like, oh, we can automate the entire thing end to end, and then we can synchronize.
Right.
I was like, oh, wow. How'd that happen?
It's a different level. I've heard this story from so many different customers in different use cases, but once that ontology starts getting revved up and you see the operational use cases, it really does feel like not only is it a game changer, but it feels like the possibilities are endless. Like the potential is infinite. And do you kind of feel like that? And is that why you guys expanded the partnership in terms of trying to go even deeper and be bolder?
I think it's two things. I think, again, like I said, we have a lot of legacy applications and technologies. The one thing that this allows us to do is not only keep the old in sync, but build for the new.
Right.
And if you think about what I just said about automating, orchestrating, doing things in an intelligent way versus some legacy manual fragmented process, I can actually, those blocks that I just talked about firing signals, I can build a whole new online experience for account opening. And that's just another spoke. But I could use those same objects to do all the checks and balances. And then slowly but surely I can sunset over time the legacy application. So that's the first thing. The other thing, which is even more important, is now that I have a customer 360, whether it's any business, right? You want to upsell, cross-sell, or retain clients. I can now have a full view of everything that's happening to you. That's effectively the glue. So now I know you as a client, Facebook's been upgraded or downgraded. A price target change on a security. You have a bond maturing, a CD coming due. It's your birthday. Your asset allocation is off track. You look like you need like a financial plan. Like I have that all together.
Yeah.
So I can power that by sort of like Palantir's combining it all together to ultimately drive this business forward, which is a bit, outstanding to me.
How are you philosophically thinking about AI in the age of finance?
Philosophically, look, I think it's an enabler for me. I often say, look, it's like a cape for some of our individuals to make them go a bit faster. I'm not looking to replace, but I'm looking to augment.
Yeah.
I think even with Palantir, a lot of what we're doing is invoking some of our existing large language models with other providers or, whatnot. But I do think like we work extremely closely with legal risk and compliance in the first inning of the game. We have a solid set of use cases for, both our client experience as well as our advisors and operations teams. Ton of them around productivity, but also, honestly, sky's the limit to make our sales teams go more efficient. But we do think it's part of the equation, but it's not the end all be all. So when I think about like Palantir, or I think about a database, or I think about a large language model, stitching them all together and orchestrating it is the key.
How competitive of a guy are you?
Very competitive.
I feel like I get that vibe.
I did not join to be second or third.
Okay, so then that leads to my next question. Do you think Palantir is giving you a true competitive edge against the other financial institutions right now?
1,000%.
Why?
Part of it is, and maybe I just don't know. Part of it is, I don't know if the other financial institutions are using Palantir yet.
Right.
But part of it is we're hungry, we're passionate, and we know we're the underdog. So it gives us more motivation.
Underdog
to be the
because
best.
like JP Morgan's bigger than you guys? Is that why?
I would say, like, historically speaking, Citi Wealth has a private bank with like 30% of the world's billionaires. But to be honest with you, we led with lending.
Right.
And sort of like, give me your cash and we'll pay you better deposits. We didn't leave with like
Management.
advice.
Yes. Yeah.
And that has changed in the last, year or two when we brought in a new regime. But the reality is you could have the greatest financial advisors in the world who bring their clients with them, but in order to give them a platform to scale and to do things in today's day and age, we have some advisors that manage 1,000 clients.
Right.
How could you possibly know every life event taking place? This one's down 7%. This one has a birthday. This one lives in California. There's a wildfire. Like, we're creative and we want to do things that our competitors don't do. I used to work at one of them. My objective is to crush them. In a good way.
Well, in a good way, yeah. You want to do. I mean, this is the nature of business, right? You want to be number one. When it comes to that wealth advisor who's dealing with those 1,000 clients, and there's a wildfire, there's a birthday, other guys in a different country on vacation, and something happens in the market. Do you see Palantir as being able to connect that advisor to all those clients and be able to make changes in real time to deal with those situations?
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to that like global federated client master. That is the binder to all the trade activity, to all the personal event activity, to all the online activity, to these are just all events happening. That Palantir sort of ontology strings everything together so that I can literally rank and score 1 through 10 or N.
Right.
These are the actions that we should take. And oh, by the way, I can use AI to write messages to clients and push a button in different languages, in different versions, depending on what's working, what's not working. So there could be the elementary school, middle school, or high school version. But ultimately, I can embed homing devices and track and trace and see if somebody clicked on it. That comes back into my clickstream data, which is connected to my ontology to figure out more of this, less of that. So it is the enabler, I would say.
There are emerging fintechs right now, the Affirms of the world, PayPal, SoFi's, Robinhoods. I mean, do you have any thoughts on how these nimble companies, couple thousand employees, are using AI and tech to scale? And are you at all kind of concerned that one day someone might not want to go to Citi, but they want to go to like a Robinhood?
Look, I think, tech is moving pretty fast, and obviously some companies are less complex than us. I don't think that's the case anymore. Like, I'm not worried about any one of them. Because they don't have me and my team. No, I'm kidding.
No, that is the answer. That's the real one.
But the reality is like, not everything's commoditized. It's. Do you have the partners like Palantir?
Yeah.
Do you have the breadth? Like, we're in 100 countries.
Yeah.
I don't see Robinhood getting there anytime soon. They can go international fine, and they might have a 25-year-old market. I get it, but at some point, just like when you get sick, are you going to trust the sort of self-directed platform to rebalance your portfolio? Like, when you get sick, you're going to talk to a doctor.
Right.
Financial advisors have been around for hundreds of years, and quite frankly, when the market implodes, you're going to want to talk to a human.
Yeah.
And if we have the best advisors that have information at their fingertips around what to do, and we've seen it before, the history of data we have, like, our competitors don't have it. We've been around for 200 years. Now I'm just unlocking that by powering sort of things that happen. So if you think about events like, that took place in the past around when the market moves this way or that way, or when this type of news comes out, I can see historical things that my competitors can't. Oh, by the way, I can see it in every country.
Yeah.
And by the way, with Citi, I also have access to the personal bank, right? So debit cards and credit cards. So if you're buying Louis Vuitton bags and you got $100 in your wealth account, well, guess what? That's a data signal. Robinhood doesn't have a bank either. So these are other advantages. We also do global payments around the world, right?
Right.
As Citi. So we're clearing trades throughout the world for our competitors. I can see what's trending in the market. These other guys can't do that.
Right.
Like, we have the depth and breadth and the footprint to do things a bit differently and uniquely. And we're going after the world's change makers, not sort of the person on the golf course, in the commercial.
Right. I think Citigroup, I'm pretty sure you're very thankful to have your job. I think Citigroup's very lucky to have you because you bring a certain level of ambition that honestly not a lot of executives have.
I appreciate it. Yeah, look, I didn't come to be second or third, but like, I'm having fun too, to be honest with you. I'm a kid in a candy store when it comes to new technologies, new capabilities, and I'm very critical of partners.
Yep.
Which for me to be a poster child for Palantir is to say something, to be honest with you.
Joseph, thanks so much for taking your time. Last question. What is the coolest part about your day-to-day in this role that you're in?
Honestly, it's the people and the team. Play hard, work hard, have fun. We have all walks of life. My team is a bit unique. I have folks that are teachers. We have people from finance. We have people from technology. They all have different diversity of thought. And I think when we kind of bring them together to sort of solution and combine things, we work as a team. We all wear one Citi jersey. Whether it's even data or tech, sometimes I don't even know who's on my team, but we like to have fun, and we're competitive, and we're hungry, and we're coming.
I love it. Joseph, Thank you so much.
Thanks, Amit. Appreciate it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 7th edition of Palantir's AIPCon. I am honored today to be here and have an exclusive interview with Tim Langley Hawthorne from Hertz. Tim, thanks for being here.
Awesome to be here, Amit. Thank you.
You had one of the presentations at the 7th edition of this AIPCon that people were really excited about. And that is because you brought a little bit of a prop, which, is a little bit of a cheat code, but still people were excited about it. I'm so excited to dive deeper into the Palantir partnership that you guys are having and how it can accelerate the future growth of Hertz. So I think let's get started with just your background. What do you do at Hertz?
Sure. I'm the Global Chief Information Officer. So I have responsibility for technology globally, and that includes our Palantir platform.
So you're a pretty important guy at Hertz, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think a lot of my audience knows about what Palantir does, ontology, data, all that stuff. We obviously know what Hertz is, car rental service. What was the impetus to begin working with Palantir, I think about 3-4 years ago, and how has the partnership evolved since then?
Yeah, we've been, I think it was about, it was 3.5 years ago. I've been with the company about the same time. It was sort of starting just as I joined. And, I think like a lot of companies, like we're a 118-year-old brand, right? We've been around a long time, and therefore that means tech-wise, we've got some of the oldest and the newest. And, I think what we saw was an opportunity to really move a lot faster and deploy products, in our case, a lot of fleet-related products to our employees way faster than we'd ever been able to do before.
Yeah, I think when I found out the partnership, I think it was like around late 2022, it was really interesting because it was like, Hertz is a company that I've used before. A lot of my audience has probably used them to rent cars. Palantir, we think of them as a data analytics company that can really aggregate and make things more efficient. One of the problems with car rental services is like it's just not efficient. There's a lot of hiccups and bottlenecks sometimes, and streamlining that process I think is very effective. The ontology from Palantir and Hertz's data, how has that made a difference in your company?
So I think, as I said, a lot of different pieces of data in a lot of different systems. And like we started with something as simple as all of the information related to maintenance on vehicles. It was sprinkled all over the place. So the employees were able to actually like get information rather than logging in 5 times and copy pasting. It just made their life easier, which meant we could actually repair cars faster and get them back on the road for the customers faster. Because at the end of the day, like I talked about this morning, for us, it's this whole phrase about right car, right place, right time.
When it comes to AI, that is the buzzword. That's what everyone's thinking about for a good reason. AI is accelerating a lot of the productivity in this country and across the entire world. What is the Palantir element of AI that you guys are either experimenting with or in full production and workflows that is starting to make a difference in Hertz?
Yeah, so what we showed this morning is, and we are in the early stages of AI in a lot of different parts of the company, but it's about if there's disruption in the operation, whether it's a disruption related to we don't maybe have as many vehicles at the location as we thought we were going to have, or there's some weather event disruption where we have some massive demand where people are like, okay, I'm ditching the airline, I'm renting a car.
Right.
Could be a disruption in terms of workforce. Maybe there's something that meant we've got fewer workforce at locations. So where we're seeing real initial opportunity in this space is how do we deploy AI to be able to proactively look at all of those parameters and actually make some recommendations and some decisions? Because today that would be a totally manual activity for the general manager at an airport to figure out what's happening here with all of these flight delays. How does it impact my schedule with my staff? How many people do I need to work late? All of that. It's very, very, there's a lot of smart people that intuitively know how to do it, but we think with AI, it can be even better.
Yeah, and that to me is a really practical use case in the world, because if there's a flight delay, that means there might be a ton of demand coming from passengers at 8 p.m. instead of 5 p.m. And that means there is a lot more difference in terms of the customers that at 5 p.m. were supposed to get their car by 5:30. They're now getting it at 8:30. And that's a lot of data to aggregate and make sense of and have predictive simulations of what could go on in terms of dealing with that event. And I imagine Palantir is helping you guys navigate all that stuff. So in terms of large language models, obviously we've seen the rise of GPT, Claude, Grok, et cetera. How is Hertz philosophically thinking about the implementation of these models?
I would say the model should fit the use case. Right. And we've got 3 probably separate use cases where we've got totally different deployment at the moment.
Right.
Customer service, a lot of this, a lot of early LLM stuff was pointed at customer service. So we're now handling a significant amount of chat volume on Hertz.com
Right.
with technology from another company that has, an LLM, and that is tuned and specific for that. We are rolling out AI-enabled damage and safety detection, right? So when you leave and enter certain airports now, you drive through an arch that takes a whole lot of high-res images, and then behind the scenes, there's a bore 4.5 to match.
Right.
And we're able to identify damage through AI. Totally separate model. And then what we're doing with Palantir as it relates to fleet, separate again, right? So I'm a believer, like, there is no winner takes all. That is never going to be the case, I think, with technology. So it's totally dependent on the use case, right? So I would say we will continue to deploy LLMs as we deploy more AI-enabled use cases.
Yeah, and as the LLMs get better and better, the use cases should become more accurate, more effective, better. And the good thing about Palantir is that AIP is agnostic towards the model as well. So you can just kind of drag and drop whichever model that you guys want. Here's a question that I think a lot of people have been thinking about on Hertz as a business in general. There is this revolution that is coming up, which is around self-driving and automation. And I think a lot of people find that as a threat to kind of Hertz's business, but any business like Uber that relies on the driver itself. How are you philosophically thinking of that? And how do you think AI is kind of helping you guys maximize your efficiency today instead of just worrying about robotaxis?
So we actually see that as a huge opportunity. And we're actually in discussions with various companies because autonomous fleets and companies like Waymo already have significant volume of trips being conducted in the cities that they operate. But, these companies at their core are technology and software companies, right? And think about, we have a fleet of 500,000 cars. As you think about large autonomous fleets, who's going to clean them? Who's going to maintain them? Who's going to charge them? Who's going to repair them? Who's going to reposition them? Who's going to store them when they're not needed and they're not on rent or not being used? Those are all core fleet management capabilities that we've been doing for 118 years. So for us, it's actually a massive opportunity.
Yeah, and I think that kind of speaks to Hertz's forward-looking vision, because in a world where other people would think, okay, this is going to hurt my business, you guys are saying, wait a second, there's going to be a lot of use cases. And I think that's also philosophically, a lot of people think AI is going to replace jobs, and it will to an extent, but there is going to be a lot of jobs and things that we need to usher in the world of AI.
I mean, as I think, the predictions are that people will own fewer cars, and therefore there will be more of these, autonomous vehicles. So that actually means the size of the market for a fleet manager like us, that's just got orders of magnitude bigger. Right. So it's actually, and this is not stuff that is a decade out. I mean, you look at what's happening in cities. Where,
I was in SF. I took my first Waymo the other day.
It's here. It's here today at scale.
Yeah.
At scale. So this is not some future, prediction. This is now.
Why did you guys decide to work with Palantir over a variety of other software vendors?
So again, it's not a winner take all. We obviously have other technology partners in the ecosystem, but I think they are very customer focused, super invested in our success. Right. They're not here to just sell us some stuff, right? And those, quite frankly, the partners in our ecosystem that are just here to sell us software, they're less and less of a partner, and they probably won't be a partner in the not too distant future. But I'd say super invested in our success, willing to make some initial investments, and just very curious about our industry. They knew nothing about it. They brought people in for boot camps, and they've just helped us go fast. I think it's that whole mentality of how do you use Foundry to go fast. So I think that's really it. Customer obsessed with us and go fast.
Yeah, and I think that's why even Dr. Karp said we don't even like thinking of you as a customer. We like thinking of you as a partner, because Palantir doesn't want to get paid unless you guys get the results that's worth paying for at the end of the day.
We have an annual event, right? We invite a curated list of partners into our headquarters. We spend time with them. We have some of the other executive team talk with them. Palantir's been there every year that we've had that event, right? And that's just, I think, testament. They are really there right alongside us.
Love it. Tim, last question. First of all, thank you for taking the time to talk. What's the best part about working at Hertz?
So I get to drive some cool cars. I mean,
that's a pretty
it's
good.
Great.
That's good. That's a good peak.
Lots of cool cars to try. We had the Shelby GT500H Mustang here today. We only have 25 of them. 25 of them made. I had one for a day when that thing first came out, and it's awesome. So that's probably one of the little perks of the job.
I love it. Tim, thank you so much.
Thanks, Amit.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Palantir's 7th edition of AIPCon. I am here today with a very special guest, Chris Johnson, the CEO of Teletracking. Chris, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We are really excited to talk to you today because you were just on CNBC earlier this morning with Dr. Karp, so we got to know a little bit more about the partnership. But I'm happy to dive a little bit deeper with you. Before we get started, what does Teletracking do, and why are you the CEO?
Oh, wasn't expecting the second question, so I can hit you with that. So Teletracking focuses on healthcare operations, and we've been in business since 1991. Founded by a gentleman by the name of Michael Zamias, and we've been working with hospitals throughout that time. We're now hundreds of hospitals across 4 countries, and we focus on operations. I think for a lot of people, just the analogy that works well for them is understanding that it's very similar to an air traffic control at an airport. Right, planes coming in, you got baggage handling, things of that nature. Well, the reality it's logistics at the end of the day, and so we call it care traffic control. And so it's helping move more patients through the system. It's helping remove the friction between patients and getting together with caregivers, making sure that hospitals are able to use their resources, their beds, to the maximum extent. And so we work with hundreds of hospitals across 4 countries. We've deployed this solution. If you deploy teletracking, some of the benefits that you're going to see is you're going to be able to serve more patients within the same physical space. You're going to see a reduction in your length of stay, not because they're being pushed out and not clinically ready, but because we're removing the friction of the discharge process. And so things of that nature.
Right. And you're the CEO because you're the best guy for the job. That's the reason.
We'll go with that. I mean, I think if I wasn't, then I probably would have heard differently about it. But been with the company now 10 years in various roles. I was with another large multinational company before that. That I got to know Teletracking in that role. But once I saw what Teletracking has done as a privately held business, and for 35 years, that's very unusual. I mean, you're pretty familiar with the investment scene and things of that nature, but this has been a mission-driven, family-owned business for that 35 years, and I saw that we could achieve more with that type of focus than you could as a multinational.
Right. I'm really excited to dive into this because healthcare, I think, is one of the biggest verticals when it comes to AI, and you guys are more supply chain logistics inside of healthcare. So there's a real big combination to see what the value proposition is to Teletracking and working with Palantir. Before we get into that, when did you guys decide to work with Palantir, and what was the trigger that got you to be like, you know what, let's do this partnership?
So I'll go back a little bit. We actually worked very closely with Palantir during COVID, which, listen, we're very proud of the work that we did during that time. I know it can be considered controversial, but the reality is we were asked to do the work of a nation during COVID. Palantir was also involved there. And so there were no jerseys. Everyone was just working to solve the problem.
Right.
So we came to know them a bit. But quite frankly, the process by which got us to this partnership was actually very quick. It started this year. Initial discussions with Palantir, where we were talking to the team, and as we looked at the market, there's kind of an evolution that you see happening in the market, and Palantir was making some inroads in healthcare in various ways, and you've seen what they did with RCM, R1 and RCM,
the NHS in the UK,
NHS in the UK, and things of that nature. They were doing work with a lot of hospitals. We do work with a lot of hospitals, but it wasn't, from my standpoint, I keep trying to make I think there was relatively little overlap in the way that we were approaching it, but there was a lot of benefit of bringing these capabilities together. We have 35 years of deep domain knowledge in healthcare operations. We have unique data that no one else has. We have 1,000 hospitals that we've learned from best practices. We have people, process, and technology. And those are the things that really differentiate Teletracking.
Right.
And so what we saw is bringing that together with the Foundry and AIP platform, we could rapidly accelerate bringing our vision and our ideas to market. And so it was a great collaboration. And so far, it is receiving a lot of positive feedback from existing and new clients.
Well, I think that Dr. Karp talked about that today in his keynote, which is that he really thinks of customers as partners, not customers. Because if you guys want to go bolder and move faster, the only way you're going to get there is if Palantir's giving you results, not because Palantir is selling you a PowerPoint or a steak dinner. So I want to go a little bit more deeper into the operational use cases. You guys said you have a lot of data, a lot of unique data, a lot of confidential data around patients as well. How has Palantir's Foundry and the ontology kind of hypercharged the ability to make that data useful and bring value to the hospitals themselves?
Well, I'd say we already made the data useful, but from a hypercharging standpoint, I think from the way that I'm looking at it and the way that we're seeing it, the ontology is actually extraordinarily powerful.
Yeah.
And the way I don't think, for those who are not familiar with it, it's not just a data model. I mean, it is truly modeling out every aspect, the digital twin, or lack of a better word,
The heart of the organization.
the heart of the organization. So. But you have to understand the organization. You have to understand the problems. You have to understand the entities and things of that nature. So we understand that very, very well. And so leveraging the ontology, leveraging Foundry, it just allowed us to move faster. I mean, we're seeing time to value is accelerating. Time to get new solutions to market is accelerating. And I'm pretty excited about it.
Do you think healthcare is going to be one of the biggest verticals from AI? Because, I mean, you mentioned like hospitals. Patients want to leave quicker. They don't want to be there for a long time. And it's not that you're trying to get them out quicker to get the next patient in to make money. It's that, hey, there's other patients, like we're seeing this with the backlog in the UK, that need that space. This is why they contracted Palantir in the first place. And a lot of times patients also don't want to be there forever to get treatment that, quite frankly, isn't that useful. So where do you think the role of AI is going to be in healthcare over the next decade?
I'll divide it between clinical and non-clinical, right? We're on the operational side. I mean, good work has been done on the clinical side around diagnoses, around image reading,
drug discovery, all that stuff.
Things of that nature. I think on the operations side, you have to understand the processes at the most granular level.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of people coming in, and some of the big multinationals and some people that are niche players. Teletracking is an operating platform that really goes across the board. And they start kind of at the top, the big screens and all that type of stuff. And from my perspective, they're just admiring the problem, right? People that understand healthcare and understand the hospital and the people in the hospital, they kind of know where the problems are. The question you have to answer is, what am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
And so getting more specific to your question, is I see it in the silos. People generally know what they need to do. It's when it starts crossing the silos, and there's a lot of silos in healthcare.
Right.
And there's a lot of what I refer to as non-obvious correlation between activities that are happening in various processes and things of that nature. And human beings just can't keep up with that, right? I mean, it's not in your line of sight. You have to be able to see around corners. You have to be able to see across time. And this is where AI, from an operational standpoint, I believe is really starting to make an impact, really tying together what are those non-obvious correlations that are going to drive outcomes. Change in process A is going to have an impact on process W, in 3 days. And understanding those and starting to make the adjustments that we understand at the very granular atomic level in order to achieve that outcome is where I see the impact really happening.
And I believe that also comes from the sort of tribal knowledge that is stuck inside of the enterprise. And I know Palantir talks a lot about this. Have you seen the ontology be able to get the benefits of extracting that tribal knowledge to then build the digital twin and the ontology itself?
It is. I mean, I think, and quite frankly, it's interesting as I watch our teams that have been working for years and years in the healthcare operations space coming together with the Palantir engineers and sitting down for the first time. It's actually pretty amazing to watch how quickly you can take the knowledge and you can start to instantiate it in the ontology. And from there, what you also see is an ability to really set up multiple parallel paths where when everyone's working from the same ontology, you can focus on X, Y, and Z, and you know that it's all based on the same thing.
Right, and really focus on outcomes at that point as well.
It's all about outcomes.
It's all about outcomes.
At the end of the day. Yeah.
Large language models. Do you see that as a tool inside of AIP that will just make things more efficient? Or I guess how are you philosophically thinking of LLMs in the context of teletracking?
It's actually interesting. I think that I'm still in the process of discovery on that. Just to be honest, I think these large language models, and you see a lot of public ones, and things that are being used. I think there's a lot of power, and healthcare in particular is very concerned about health systems. Are very concerned about their data. They're very concerned about what is exposed outside of that, and quite frankly, in a litigious society in the U.S., things of that nature. There's a lot of risk. I think there's a lot to be said for some of the private private models, for
Yep.
lack of a better word.
Yep.
I think there's tremendous power. I think there's tremendous power there. And we work with very large healthcare systems, some of the largest in the world,
Right.
that represent here in the United States. And quite frankly, they are their own ecosystem across 24 states.
Do you are you guys operating in any socialized healthcare systems in countries? across the world?
UK.
Okay, so
So just to be clear, so actually UK, Canada. So we're in the US, Canada, UK, and Germany today.
do you see the same use case or similarity between a society that guarantees healthcare and the United States that has it more privatized? At the end of the day, teletracking still is a glue that makes them more effective.
I think the problems are the same. The payer system, because even in the UK and socialized system like that, it is not. It's NHS is a system in name only.
Right.
It's a payer system.
Correct.
At the end of the day, and you're very familiar with this, the trusts operate very, very independently.
Independent, right?
Now, there is a major difference in the profit motive that you see in the United States versus what you see in the UK. But I like to step back and look at it at the end of the day. We have aging populations around the world.
Yeah.
We have a decrease in labor force
Yep.
in healthcare around the world. GDP in the United States, 20% being spent on healthcare, slightly less in the UK, but still pretty significant. Germany, which is a little bit of a blend, is not quite socialized, but it's not quite as free market
Right.
as the U.S. model. Are sitting there at 11.5% of their GDP, on their way to 13. They want to get to single digits. The only way you can do that is focus on the root cause, and so that is dealing with the enormous cost that has been put into these hospitals, the fixed cost that's
Yeah.
associated with it. Dealing with the labor problem. How do you deal with the labor problem? You help them be more efficient.
Yeah, and I would imagine you think of your role as a CEO a little bit more philosophically, like, hey, there's a lot of glut and problems in the healthcare system. If teletracking can even kind of make these hospitals more efficient in aggregate, that's going to be good for patients, but overall good for the economy if we can make healthcare more efficient.
Absolutely. I mean, let me just give you the math on it, or and this is round numbers. But the U.S. healthcare economy, which represents half the global economy, $4 trillion.
Right.
Half of that is in labor.
Yeah.
What do you think the productivity of that labor is?
In terms of the revenue that it produces, I would say a couple $100 billion.
Yeah. Well, let's put it this way, and because I didn't ask the question exactly right. For if you're spending, let me put it this way, about 20%.
Right.
So about 20% of the activity that's happening by the labor force in healthcare is what I would consider productive.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
that's not because they're not lazy people.
Yeah,
These are
not at
people
all.
that have a calling. These are people that are doing, unbelievable work. They don't have the tools. They don't have the capability.
There's a lot of
And
bottlenecks.
it's not. This is not a system that can be re-engineered because it was never engineered in the first place.
Mm.
You can't re-engineer something that was never engineered. So we have to engineer. We have to engineer process. We have to engineer the efficiency in there. But I mean, use your numbers. So it's 20% out of a $2 trillion labor budget. Where's the rest of that? Where's that money actually going?
Right.
Where's it going?
That's a fair point. And I think a lot of that also means that there is a massive opportunity for teletracking, Palantir, companies like that are actually focused on outcomes inside of the healthcare space in the first place.
That's exactly right. I mean, and that's how we listen. It's funny. Palantir is known as AI, data platform and things of that nature. One of the things my marketing people don't love when I say publicly, we didn't have an AI strategy.
Yeah.
We've had an outcome strategy, right? Different technologies come and go. There's hype, and you can jump up and down on it and stuff like that. What I see at Palantir and what I see happening is that we're past the hype. Yeah. We're to where we can apply this technology to drive real, meaningful outcomes. And that's what brought us together. I actually think there's a shared DNA between the organizations and wanting to solve big problems. You're not going to find a bigger one than the one we're looking at right now.
Chris, thank you for taking the time. Last question. What's the coolest part about being the CEO of Teletracking?
Oh, wow. That's a stumper. Actually, I love what I do. I love what I do. And Teletracking is I've worked in the big multinational. I've worked in the venture back. I've worked in the PE. Teletracking at the end of the day is a family-owned business that has been mission-oriented and focused for 35 years. And it is something unique in my life that I would never want to replace.
I love it. Chris, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the 7th edition of Palantir's AIPCon. I am honored to be here today with Enrico Nave from Nestle. Enrico, thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for inviting us. So thank you.
So I'm really excited today because Nestle is one of those companies, one of those brands that pretty much everyone knows about. They've been an iconic brand for a very long time. Obviously, your partnership with Palantir is a very exciting one in terms of how you guys are really accelerating the growth of Nestle from a digital transformation perspective. So I guess to get started, what do you do at Nestle? And then we'll transition into why you guys work with Palantir.
Yes. So I'm working in supply chain. I'm a VP of supply chain for Nestle Mexico. So we started the partnership with Palantir 3 years ago.
Right.
But in operations 1 year ago. Okay. We start with a use case well defined that is around transportation, and the results are ahead of our expectations. So that's the things that we said. Let's move ahead faster and let's be bolder. And let's see if for Mexico this can be leveraged as a global solution.
Right. Okay. So before we get into the types of results you saw that wanted you to move faster, why 3 years ago did you say let's take a chance on Palantir?
We start from the commercial side. There was a pitch, and then means Palantir was picked. And then from operation side, we did another pitch 1 year ago. We invite few players. We said, okay, those are set of data that Nestle has.
Right.
Very tangible use case on transport. How do you optimize this in terms of efficiency and service and so on?
Right.
This is what we want to do. So we invite 3 or 4 companies. It was a pitch. And then at the end of the day, Palantir was way above the others. I have to say that, okay, you came back in 2 weeks with something that was a demo.
Wow.
It looks like very, very close to what we want to achieve. So congratulations to you. I don't know how you did it, but you did it.
Well, I've heard this story from so many customers, right?
Yeah.
Like they get a pitch, they look at some of the other vendors, and they're fed stories and narratives from other vendors. From Palantir, they're like, hey, don't pay us unless this is more valuable.
Yeah.
And if it's actually valuable, then it's going to work. So what was that first use case that got you guys to be like, this is a little different?
Yeah, it's okay. Overall, we pick transport. Transport in Nestle Mexico is $400 million cost, so it's not sizable.
Yeah.
We said, okay, we want to what we want to achieve was better efficiency, a better service.
Right.
That was the brief.
Yeah.
So how we can optimize the overall transport. We identified 5 use cases. One is around optimize our own fleet. We went from 78 to 90%.
Right.
Optimization. Optimize our route planning. Make sure that, by integrating all information about raw material, inbound and outbound, and the customer orders, how we can optimize the overall route, how we can make sure that, we see where are the trucks, we see the till time, and then, we said, these trucks will unload here the goods and move 50 kilometers and load again.
Right.
So in this way, we are optimized. The third one is to optimize the utilization. So combine. We have all different orders. And these 2 orders are on the same day, 50 kilometers apart. Let's combine. So we have a vehicle utilization that is higher than the other.
Right.
The fourth was, we have a list of supplier. Each one give us a rate. How we optimize the rate ranking. We use always the cheapest or the best service. And the system is helping you to go always from the cheaper or the best service. Depends which one you want. And this, also improve a lot. And the fifth one was the airport visibility. Just to make sure that, we know in real time where our fleet is and how we are going to serve the customers in each and every time. If you're going to be late, if you're going to be, if we have a problem, if something has been stuck somewhere, and how we solve the problem before creating a problem to the customer.
That's a lot of intricacies and nuances to try to find something to optimize for, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And like the end result obviously is more valuable to you guys, which is why you want the software. But the fact that a software can even do all that stuff at once and give you the desired outcome, you could imagine that if it could do that, then there's other use cases it can do as well.
Yes, that's why we came here today. That is I think we're doing faster because we did everything in 6 months. Because 6 months was more or less negotiating, developing, and then we start 6 months ago and we see the results now. I said, we are going pretty fast. Then we see today, I said, no, we're not.
Right.
So we need to go faster, bolder, and our end vision is to create this end-to-end operation control tower, supply chain control tower. So from transport, we already had this in mind. So from transport to move to logistics, to order to cash, order management, to planning, to manufacturing, and so on. And we want to do this in 1 year. But then today we said, let's go faster. Let's see if we can do faster than 1 year. But we need you. We need your help. Because the way we do is very flexible. as I say, we don't replace the existing systems. What we do is create all snowflakes. We have snowflakes where all the information are there, and then we connect Palantir to these snowflakes,
Right.
and then create all the flows and ontology,
Right.
optimize, giving back the information to the system in order to operate to
Got
the
it.
other system. So SAP, OMP, or whatever. But we use Palantir just
To bridge the gap between
Yes.
all the data and the actual
and
actions.
to have this brain on
Right.
top of the others that is able to connect.
Right. It's kind of the layer that makes everything
Yeah.
fit together as well. AI. A lot of people are talking about AI. What is the impact of AI on Nestle's business?
It's huge. So what the next step at the moment we implement AI. Now we are in this process to implement AI because the system in this moment is proposing solution. Now then human has to approve, not
Right.
approve, take it and so on.
Right. Right.
So with AI, what we want to do, and machine learning, what we want to do, we want to be sure that tomorrow this is automatically done. There is
Right.
no any more human intervention because the system will optimize itself.
Right.
And will take the decision in order to optimize itself. That's why AI, in this case of transport, is already huge. But you can think about an end-to-end how the system can be able to turn the red in green. Because if you have the flow, you know where the deviation are coming from,
Right.
and then the system itself is recomputing in order that the red is becoming green again.
Right. And I would imagine the way you're seeing large language models is from that automation perspective. Like, can we connect it with AIP and Foundry to actually get things done?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what. Look, I'm an operations guy. I'm not from IT. And so on.
Right.
But the ability to Palantir to make the things easier to implement and really friendly users is amazing. It's a bit expensive, to be frank. But okay, you serve the purpose.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what even Dr. Karp said today in this keynote. He was like, "Look, we're not cheap, but you're going to pay us for a reason."
Yeah.
And I think so many times enterprises are just like trying to justify why they're making the payment.
Yeah.
And hopefully with Palantir, you can keep justifying it because you're getting more value than
Yeah.
you spend. You know.
Yeah.
All right. Last question for you. Thank you again so much for taking your time with us. What's the coolest part about working at Nestle?
Means the ability of this company give us, because we are Nestle Mexico, to test and learn, improve things. So Nestle is a decentralized company. So
Right.
There is no decisions are not taking always into the most of the time are not taking in Vevey in Switzerland, are taking in the market, and the ability to see something and say, okay, look, this is what we want to do. This is why we want to do. This is the problem that we want to solve. This is the results that we want to get. Are we aligned? And then, okay, usually it's something I said, okay, look, if you do this, this, and this, means ensuring scalability, ensuring that we use the platform that is common in terms of snowflakes,
Right.
and so on. Then, okay, you can test. You can go. You can go and learn and test.
And I think you guys kind of appreciate the ability to have the freedom to test, make mistakes, see what's working, and then once you find what's working, you try to go as bold as you can.
Yes,
to get faster.
Yes, that's what we're moving on, because in the markets are moving faster than the center usually.
Right.
Because if you want to take a decision in a global way, usually takes longer.
Yeah.
To align everybody in the market because of the need, because there is a need always. Yeah, you go faster because you have a pain points that you want to solve.
And Enrico, thank you so much for taking the time.
No,
We appreciate it.
Thank you.